homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. I am making a quick batch of beer mustard because I realized I'm just about out of my beer mustard. We don't go through a ton of mustard, but it'll last me over a year when I make a batch. But I was just having some lovely ham sandwich from some homemade tasso ham that I made over this holiday Christmas break, and realized, oh, I'm almost out of beer mustard, so I'm going to make a new batch, and I thought I'd bring you along and show you how it's done. It is so easy to make mustard. It's one of the easiest condiments you can make. You can generally buy mustard seed like this, whole mustard seed, at your natural food store, or if you've got a good-sized grocery store that has a bulk section. This is really commonly found in the bulk section in the spice aisle. I'm doing a mix of both brown mustard and yellow mustard. The yellow mustard is a little milder. I like a little bit more tang, and so I do a mix of half and half. This is 1/3 cup of each. And what I'm going to do is just put this in my spice mill for just a little bit. I'm not looking for powder here, but I do want to crack the grains. That's probably about right. You can do this as coarse or as not coarse as you like. I like a little bit of graininess in there, but I found that if I don't crack them to some extent, one, it's a little harder to get it to thicken up, and two, it's a little bit too grainy. I like some spreadability, and when it's whole grains, it tends to be hard to move around. So I'm going to do 1/2 cup of beer, and this can be any beer that you like. I happen to be using a Blue Moon, which is pretty mild. I've done this with a lot of different things over the years, including stouts. I would say select a beer that you like the flavor of. There really is no right or wrong answer. So I'm going to just mix this all together. And you can see there's still quite a few in there that are whole, but we've managed to crush them up pretty good. And I'm just going to mix this together. I'm going to use the back end of a wood spoon rather than the front end because it's less surface area to scrape off when I have to clean it. And I'm just going to let this soak and hydrate for about 1/2 hour. And then I'm going to come back and add the rest of my ingredients. So we're going to let this soak and let those mustard grains absorb some of that lovely beer flavor. All right, we'll be back in a little bit. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. Our beer mustard has been soaking for that length of time. And if you like your mustard with a lot of bite, when you soak it with cold beer right out of the fridge. If you want it to be a little bit more mellow, then soak it in room temperature beer. The temperature of the liquid that you soak the mustard seed in has a direct impact on how spicy it is. And so the colder the liquid, the more spicy. When you add the vinegar, that sort of sets the heat. And so as soon as you add that vinegar, it kind of sets where it's going to be. It will then continue to mellow in the fridge as well. But yeah, you want it really hot, add cold liquid. So I'm adding to this 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. You could add any kind of vinegar you liked here. We're going to start with 1/4 cup and see what our texture is. I might add a little bit more. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of table salt. This happens to be sea salt. If you only had kosher salt on hand, you'd want to add twice as much. Kosher measures in a very different way than regular table salt. You can add 2 tablespoons of sweetener. I am going to use some malt barley syrup just because I happen to have it on hand and I've had it for a very long time. And malted barley is what's used in beer, so the flavors kind of go together. It's also used in some bread recipes, which is why I have it. But I need an excuse to use this, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. But you could use honey, you could use just regular sugar, you could use agave syrup, you could use maple, whatever you like. This is very gooey. It's a little bit like molasses. I usually heat this, but I'm not going to heat this today. sticky. I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon of turmeric. And turmeric is really common in mustards, mostly for the yellow color, because it really gives it that beautiful yellow color that we're so accustomed to. There's a little bit of flavor in there, but I think mostly it's added for the color. 1/4 teaspoon paprika. This is homegrown paprika, so it's definitely special stuff. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And this is just where I've landed. You can play around with this a lot, and I'll give you some options in the description for different flavorings and things that you can add. There's lots of different ways that you can go. And you notice this is a random aside, but you notice how my measuring spoons are all connected? There's a reason for that. It's really easy for me to take one and put the others behind me, and that way I am never rooting around in a drawer trying to find a half a teaspoon or a 1/4 teaspoon. I am always baffled when people take that ring off and have things loose, because somehow this is inconvenient to do, you know, a single spoon forward and the rest of them back. I had a house sitter once who took the ring off of my measuring spoons, and I was like, one, who does that in somebody else's house? And two, what are you thinking? Much better, in my humble opinion, to have them together so that I'm not searching for them in a drawer. But hey, you do you. If you like them loose, knock yourself out. So we're just gonna mix all of this well, make sure everything's in from the sides. I'm gonna give this a taste test. This is gonna be pretty harsh right now because nothing has really had a chance to marry. So I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I'm just trying to taste it for sweetness and saltiness. Yeah, that's good. I've been making this recipe for a while, so no big surprises there. You could also throw a stick blender in here and further puree this if you wanted it to be less chunky, and I've done that on occasion. But mostly this really needs to sit for about a week before it's really perfect. So we're gonna let it sit, but that's all there is to it. That's how you make homemade mustard. And if you wanted it to be smooth, you could grind it and make it a really nice powder before you did this. So lots of different ways to go. There's a ton of recipes on the internet, including just recipes for plain old, basically copycats of like French's yellow mustard. That's been on my list for a long time to make, and I've never gotten around to it. It's my husband's favorite for things. He likes just a plain old yellow mustard. And so maybe we'll do a video later on me doing that, because that's something that I've been meaning to do for a while. I even have the recipe saved, and I've just never gotten around to it. But we haven't been out, so I haven't done it. But there you go. Homemade, grainy mustard, super easy, super quick. It's worth having whole mustard seeds on hand. They're inexpensive and worth buying. So make your own mustards. Great DIY. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.